No, you're gonna work? Okay, well, I think it's working. I wasn't sure. This is Angelia with today's Bible reading. Today's reading comes from Revelation 18, Lament for Babylon. And the kings of the earth, who committed acts of immorality and lived sensuously with her, will weep and lament over her. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. My dad called. He's 83 years old, so when he calls, you gotta talk to him. you know. Uh, let's see. Hopefully you heard me there. Anyway, the kings will weep and lament over her when they see the smoke of her burning. So she's gonna burn, and they're gonna be sad about it. Standing all at a distance because of the fear of her torment, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, Babylon, the strong city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. So, it's going to come. It's going to come fast. Maybe in an actual hour. We don't know. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her, because no one buys their cargoes anymore. Cargoes of gold and silver and precious stones and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and every kind of citron wood and every article of ivory and every article made from very costly wood and bronze and iron and marble and cinnamon and spice and incense and perfume and frankincense and wine and olive oil and fine flour and wheat and cattle and sheep and cargoes of horses and chariots and slaves and human lives. So she was buying everything. And of course, some of these things have been in the past. You can't get ivory anymore unless there have been people who want to bring that back. Only in a legal way. Take the tusks and bring that back. And folks, there are certain sects of humanity who think maybe slavery was not such a bad thing. And they wouldn't mind having some back. I personally think that is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard, but there are folks like that. I've heard them talk like that. The fruit you long for has gone from you, and all things that were luxurious and splendid have passed away from you, and men will no longer find them. So all these, nice, cool, fancy things were evidently coming from this country, and they were trading back and forth, with other countries for this stuff. So now it's not going to be a thing. The merchants of these things who become rich from her will stand at a distance because of the fear of her torment, weeping and mourning, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, she who was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, for in 1 hour such great wealth has been laid waste. So, it's going to come quick. Like I said, might be an actual hour, but she's going to be leveled. And every shipmaster and every passenger and sailor and as many as make their living by the sea stood at a distance and were crying out as they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads, and were crying out, weeping and mourning, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, in which all who had ships at sea became rich by her wealth, for in 1 hour she has been laid waste. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you saints and apostles and prophets, because God has pronounced judgment for you. against her. So the good folks he just mentioned were persecuted by her. So they're probably going to be kind of happy that she's gone her way. Then a strong angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, So will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence and will not be found any longer. So it's just going to be gone, leveled. And the sound of harpists and musicians and flute players and trumpeters will not be heard in you any longer. And no craftsman of any craft will be found in you any longer. And the sound of a mill will not be heard in you any longer. And the light of a lamp will not shine in you any longer. And the voice of the bridegroom and bride will not be heard in you any longer. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery. So, they're going to be the hub. They're going to be the, best consumer in the world. And, right now, the best consumer in the world is good old USA. So, not good. And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all who have been slain on the earth. So, and that's why a lot of people point to Israel, saying that it's them or one of the Middle Eastern countries because they've slain the prophets. Excuse me. And let's see what our scholars have to say about this. This section records the lament over Babylon's destruction, not her sin, by those who were part of her system. Kings, the political leaders of the world, will weep because the loss of his capital city will signal the doom of Antichrist's empire, and with it the source of their power. Because, when that goes, they're going to have their, big world system happening, and, they're going to have a lot of good stuff. And then when Babylon is leveled, it's not happening anymore. And they're going to see their great empire that they thought was going to be great and last forever fall to pieces. Weep and lament over her. Weep means to sob openly. Lament translates the same word used to express the despair of the unbelieving world at the return of Christ. So Christ is going to come back. Her little noise above my head, there's a chandelier, making sure I'm not going to get beaten in the head. That would be terrible. To express the despair of the unbelieving world at the return of Christ. So the unbelievers are not going to be happy that Jesus is coming back, because they didn't believe that, they didn't want no part of that. And now with Jesus coming back, they're going to be, 1 hour. Over half of their commodities appear in the list in Ezekiel. Purple. This refers to garments laboriously dyed with purple dye extracted from shellfish. Lydia was a seller of such expensive garments. A distinctive mark of the Caesar was their purple robes. Citron wood, wood from North African citrus trees, highly valued because of its color, which was used to make extremely expensive pieces of furniture. Marble, imported from Africa, Egypt, and Greece, was widely used in Roman buildings. Perfume, frankincense, a fragrant gum or resin imported from Arabia and used in incense and perfume. Slaves and human lives. The slave trade, long banned by the civilized nations of the world, will reappear in Antichrist's debauched commercial system. So, like I say, there are people talking like that. You gotta watch out. Shipmaster. Ship captains will mourn the loss of Babylon and the lucrative transport business that went with it. Threw dust on their heads, an ancient expression of grief. In 1 hour, not just 60 minutes, but one brief period of swift judgment. God has pronounced judgment for you against her. The angel will exhort the tribulation martyrs to rejoice. not over the deaths of those doomed to eternal hell, but because God's righteousness and justice have prevailed. Great millstone. Millstones were large, heavy stones used to grind grain. This metaphor portrays the violence of Babylon's overthrow. The fall of Babylon ends. Whatever semblance of normalcy will still exist in the world after all the seals, trumpets, and bowls. Life will be totally disrupted and the end near. No more music, no industry, no preparing of food, no more power for light, and no more weddings, because God will be destroying the deceivers and the deceived. Blood of prophets and of saints. The religious and commercial political systems embodied in Babylon will commit unspeakable atrocities against God's people. God will avenge the slaughter of his people. So for those folks who are left in that day, it's not going to be good. So, they're going to lament for their Babylon, because this means all those goods and all the high life they were living is gone. Amen. Thanks for watching. Please like and share this word so we can spread it around the world. If you want to help me out, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want to help me out even more, go to my Patreon page and become a patron. That's all for now. Until next time.